You are listening to Comedy Club for Kids presents Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense. Hiya, you gluey dough farts. Welcome to the Radio Nonsense Show. Thank you to Anonymous and Co. for that intro, which is very exciting, as Anonymous has sent stuff in before. Thank you very much. But there's never been a whole company sending in a suggestion for this show before. I do hope there were a number of suggestions, then everyone in Anonymous and Co. had to vote for their favourite. I think that's the sort of thing people do in offices. Then they make coffee, they talk to each other by the water cooler about what they've seen on telly, and then they shred paper. I'm not really sure how any of that is helpful, but lots of grown-ups do it. Maybe it's just to get them out of the house, you know, because otherwise, when you went to school, what would they do? They'd just sort of sit around and fart, wouldn't they? And then, obviously, after a long day in the office, all the grown-ups come home and they go, "Oof, I've had a hard day at work." And if you ask them why, they just go, "Oh, just work, you know." And I guess you have to assume the paper shredder didn't work, or no one else had seen what they'd seen on telly, and so the conversations were awkward. I think that's how it works. Anyway, sorry, I'm Tin, and what I should be saying is hello and welcome to Radio Nonsense, the official Comedy Club for Kids podcast for all ages from 2 and everything in between. But of course I didn't need to, as we had that great intro from Anonymous and Co. What is a gluey dough fart? Is it when you make bread and the dough gets air bubbles and then the bread farts them out so it can become bread properly? Oh, does bread fart? I'm not sure. I do know, though, you might like this, Radio Nonsense listeners, pumpernickel, which is a type of bread. The name of pumpernickel actually means farting devil or devil's fart, because it's bread that makes you fart, which is amazing. The bread is fart bread and people eat it and fart. Oh, I really wish more food did that, right? Here are some sneeze cakes, everyone. Why don't you have a burp drink and a sick soup? Enjoy. Actually, not sure anyone would. The rest of Anonymous and Co.'s message, by the way, was, "Hello, stinky bum bums. Happy Autumn Festival. Here's a mooncake. Bye." And thank you very much for that, though I don't have stinky bum bums. Unless you mean each and every one of the Stinky Hippos bums, as well as my own. I've only got a stinky bum bum. I don't have more than one. Or unless you mean my collection of ancient historical stinky bums for my Museum of Stinky Bums. Maybe you mean that. Anyway, but happy Autumn Festival to you too, and of course to everyone listening. I love the Mid-Autumn Festival, or Moon Festival, because firstly, it's a great time of year. Leaves get crispy, hot chocolate comes back, wellies happen. It is excellent. I've never understood why it's called fall in some places. I know leaves fall from the trees, but if that's what you name a season, then why don't other places call the other seasons after what happens in them? Like, winter could just be cold, spring could be lambs, and summer could be shorts or sunburn. Exactly. They don't do that because it would be silly. But the bit of the Autumn Festival I like is when all the lanterns get lit and they float into the sky, which looks beautiful and also makes birds all get scared that jellyfish can fly. And I think that birds need that, so they remember they shouldn't poo on everything from the sky, or the fire jellyfish will get them, and that is important. If you have an intro you'd like to send in, or an outro, or a question you need answering, and in fact anything else at all, then please ask your goofy pumpernickels, grown-ups, to help you email me at podcast@comedyclubforkids.co.uk. If they'd also like to help support this show, then they can subscribe you to the advert-free Linda edition, which they can do on Apple Podcasts, or the links to Acast Plus or the Patreon in the podcast blurb. Please also check out all our live shows and absolutely everything else we do at comedyclubforkids.co.uk, and have a little listen, pleasey please, to the other podcasts that I do called Bust or Trust. It is a lot of fun and mystery at once. Mr. Run, funstery. Right, while I eat this mooncake, why don't you listen to this most importantest bit?
It's just really exciting to see those leaves changing.
I am joined today by none other than Alison Thea Skot, a.k.a. Alison, who always has her wellies on, a.k.a. Ali Thiscoos, secret tree inspector extraordinaire, and as all our Czech-speaking listeners will, of course, know you, Dostala drobne zapetile brovu, banku. which means, I believe, has she got change for a £5 note? But of course, Alison, you are most famous for your Broadway hit musical You Say Splades, I Say Spinorks, all about the fork, knife and spoon combination utensil, for being the 3-time world champion at leaving parties earlier than anyone else, and as all our listeners will be aware, for your unique, incredible ability to accurately tell the careers that animals have just by looking at them. Alison, it's so nice to finally have you on the show. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I really have. I just took a pause in the garden from just pointing at animals and telling what career they had, and ran in and got my headphones on, ready to do this podcast. So I'm on a pause from that and just loving being here. Hi.
That's wonderful. So you do it in your garden. I'm assuming. Well, I don't know where you are. Do you have quite a range of animals in your garden and a range of careers, or is it the same sort of ones every time?
Well, I'm sort of quite known now amongst where I live. I live in Hertfordshire. It's very green and leafy. My garden's pretty long, so I've got hedgehogs. Obviously, hedgehogs very organised. Most of them work in accounts. Then I've also got a lovely sort of a den of foxes as well. Foxes,
nice.
Little bit cheeky, little bit naughty. Foxes are often they're very naughty. So what's the naughtiest thing you can imagine? They are criminals. They are criminals.
Wow. Okay. Wow. I wasn't sure. I was worried. I wasn't sure you were going to say lawyers. I didn't know where you were going to go for that. But they are. Do you know what? But that explains. This is about a year ago. I saw a fox walking down the road with a Tesco bag in its mouth, and the Tesco bag was full of things. And I thought, you haven't. I can't imagine you using a self-service checkout. You've got that from somewhere else.
They have. They are very naughty. I mean, naughty is probably not a strong enough word, but they will probably have popped in and they might have been a bit naughty there. And I think that might be a little bit of shoplifting going on from foxes.
Wow.
Very naughty.
Do you, in that situation, do you interfere? Do you sort of career advise, or do you keep well away and let them get on with it? You know, what do you kind of do in your role?
I have tried to career advise, and they're good listeners. Actually, foxes, they are good listeners, and they do know. They do say they're very sorry. And I have, on occasion, I've seen a fox go back and put their things back to Tesco's.
Oh,
so that's nice, isn't it? It's just so everyone can change. Everyone can, give them a chance and they can change. My favourite animal is a whale. That's my favourite animal.
Oh, lovely.
Whales. Yeah. What do you think a whale does?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, they're so big that they wouldn't fit at a desk.
No.
I don't think.
No.
And I can't really imagine them sort of getting on a train for a commute.
No,
so it
difficult.
can't be anything in the city or
No. It would often be it would be in water. It would be in salty water.
Yeah. Is it because I love Whale's song. I like that it always sounds
very close. Very good.
So is it like it's some sort of wellness? Do they kind of do like sound?
Yes.
Therapy stuff?
Yes, they do. They record all of their whale song, put it onto CD and tape, and then they deliver that to land, and that's what you hear when you go in for a massage. Or if you go somewhere calm like a yoga studio, that's what you're hearing. And they get royalties for that.
That's amazing. Can I ask, so you said on a cassette or a CD, which some of our listeners, CDs were like coasters for your drink that played music, or frisbees that played music. Cassettes, I don't really know. I don't know how to explain them other than when they broke, you could fix them with a pencil.
Yes, they could. Wow.
Yeah, which was an amazing side of it. But I wondered, do they choose those formats because you can't really do digital when you're in the sea? Because
it is difficult. If you set up a recording studio in the sea, most of the time that will flood and be terrible. They did try. They had a lot of music producers go down to the bottom of the sea and set up this wonderful recording studio. And I did say, oh, you want to be careful, that's going to flood. And it did. It flooded. So they were that we can't really do. Ironically, they can't do streaming, which you'd think would be ideal for water-based creatures. They can't stream. Yeah. So tape, CD, and then that gets put onto a streaming service when it gets out of the sea.
Wow, that's amazing. It's so complex, but I mean, it makes sense, and I'm so pleased they found a way to do it. They've got a kind of production line going on,
making some money from such a lovely skill. Lovely, isn't it?
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Are there any animals that kind of struggle with their careers?
Yes.
There any that you really have to give a little nudge to or pointers? I mean, obviously you mentioned foxes, which I have to say, just thinking of, that's why they live in a den, isn't it? Because when you say, "Oh, I live in a den," that immediately you think, well,
you're up to something bad. Yeah, absolutely. I must admit, you'd be surprised, but chickens really struggle.
Wow,
Yeah,
chickens.
you'd be surprised because they do actually have something they can sell, but they get very protective of their eggs, and they won't go into retail. And I have really pushed for them. I was like, you really should set up a shop, but they won't do it. So they struggle. So they really do rely on humans, unfortunately.
Wow,
so yeah,
that's a shame because they always seem so busy as well. Chickens always look like they're clucking about, sort of, trotting everywhere. And
they've got so much to offer.
Frantic. Yeah,
they're lovely. They've always got a good chat. Lovely, very personable, but they just won't do it. They just won't do it. And I go, I respect it. I'm not going to force anyone into retail if they don't want to.
That's good. Well, that's nice. That's what because I do feel like we've got to be careful interfering with wildlife and sort of with nature. A lot of nature documentaries. Like when David Attenborough does it, he always like doesn't actually go and like sort of poke a deer in the eye or anything. He always stands a distance away.
Yeah, even though he really wants to poke a deer in the eye. Yeah, and
he always writes about it, doesn't he? In all his 98 years of life, all he's really wanted to do is poke a deer in the eye, but he's not been allowed.
He's resisted that. He's very impressive that he's resisted that.
I think that's why he's won the awards. Actually, I don't, I know the documentary is impressive, but I think most people are just like, wow, you've got willpower.
Give him an award for that, for not poking a deer in the eye 10 years in a row.
Yeah, and because the other thing he does sometimes, like there's an insect on his hand, he doesn't go ugh and fling it in the air.
Oh, he's such control. Yeah, he's done. When he sees a spider, he doesn't scream. He holds on to that. He's like, oh, and he holds it in. Really impressive.
It's really impressive.
Yeah.
He's really impressive. He's amazing. But that's what I wondered. I wondered how do you get receipt, because you do interfere, or you at least tell the animals maybe what careers they should be doing if they're not doing them already. Do you get resistance from that? Obviously, you mentioned the chickens a little bit, but the whole wildlife community happy with you doing what you do?
I'd say on the whole, they've actually started giving me career advice now, because it seems to be a two-way conversation.
Wow.
And you know what? And at first, I thought that's a little above. A little above your station, and then I was like, you know what, I'm going to take it. And they made suggestions not just for career but for life choices, hobbies. So I've taken on some hobbies that were suggested to me, and I never would have thought to do that. So I'm pretty, roller skating's one. Started roller skating.
Wow.
That was suggested to me by a flock of geese. Lovely.
Wow, that's amazing. I wonder where they got that idea from. Is it they're flying over sort of famous roller skating areas, and they
they fly a lot over Hyde Park. You've got a lot of skaters in Hyde Park, and also if they're flying up to North London, there's a lovely roller disco up in North London. So I think they would have just seen that about, and then they said, you know what, we think you need a new hobby. And I was,
that's lovely,
really kind. And then I love it. I absolutely love it. So now I do.
That's great.
I go roller skating, have lessons. I've been doing it for a year. It's absolutely brilliant. It's so fun.
That's amazing. And how are you? So here's my question. I haven't roller skated since I was very little, and I still get scared of the idea of like hills. Like, what do you do? How do you get up a hill on roller skates, and then how do you get down a hill on roller skates?
I will admit it is hard. And I'm not great, but I have some control. And one of the first things they teach you is how to fall over and how to stop. And I think they are the best skills, especially when it comes to hills. So I know how to stop and I know how to fall safely. So the best thing you can do is fall very safely, and you've got to wear all your pads, all your helmet, everything, and then you can fall safely, stop yourself. So the hill really is a case of just, you've got to clamber up that hill on all fours, and then you let the wheels take over.
Right. And then you just sort of fall.
And then
you stop at the bottom instead of skating on forever for the rest of your life.
Yeah, because some people have done that. Some people don't know how to stop, and they've never stopped skating.
Wow, that's terrifying. That's it. You've come down a hill and you can never
stop.
never put the brakes on. You just
Yeah.
you got to go in a straight line, and that's
Yeah,
through the ocean, I guess, at some point, and
all the way through oceans, through mountains, deserts, and then and back round again. Some people have done several loops of the Earth.
Wow, that's what worries me. You see, I worry that I wouldn't listen when I was being told about the stop, or I'd be distracted by something. And then next thing I know, I've gone up a hill, clambered up it, fallen down it, and then suddenly I'm in the Sahara Desert.
And that is what would happen. So I think I think again, very good on you to realise, that perhaps that's not for you. Perhaps that hobby's not for you, but unless you're happy to end up in the Sahara Desert.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose in a way it's like a free holiday, isn't it? In some ways.
That's a good point, actually. Didn't think of that. Maybe that's where people go. Maybe they go. They fly off on their wheels, and they're scared. Then they realise they're on holiday, and they decide never to come back.
Wow. I mean, I suppose because people sort of say the desert, and it can be. I can't remember what people say about desert. It's like it's harsh or it's too hot.
Yeah, very hot. Very hot.
Very hot, yeah. But it's kind of like a big beach, isn't it? Just like the biggest beach ever. So and people like the beach. So I don't get why they like the beach, but they don't like the desert.
Agreed. I think it's picky. Very picky.
Yeah, it's picky. Yeah.
And sometimes in the, I don't know, you get sort of sand dunes, don't you? Lovely hills in the desert. Yeah. That's fun. I don't know if you could roller skate down a sand dune. Might be difficult, but it could also be quite fun. Maybe that's what people end up doing. Go to this massive beach and roller skate down sand dunes.
That's amazing. That's a great idea. And I just sort of think how many sandcastles you could build in a desert compared to, say, a beach. You could build millions of sandcastles.
Oh my goodness. Never-ending sandcastles. Yeah. That would be great. That's better than a small sand pit in your back garden, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Because that also, sandpits in your garden nearly always get cat poos in.
So, you're right. And there'll be no cats in the desert. No cats are coming along to poo.
They would hate it there, yeah.
They really would hate it. I think it would be too hot for cats. Anything with fur would probably struggle in the desert.
Yeah. What do cats do? What do they mainly do as a job?
Sailors.
Right, really?
Yeah, I know. And everyone says cats don't like water, but they are fantastic at handling boats.
Wow. Is that because they don't like being in the water, so they want to stay above it,
Yeah, absolutely. So you pop down to the sea and you want to charter a boat, just go and talk to any cat and they'll sort you out.
That's amazing. Is that why? Now, I'm just sort of, I'm asking this, realising I don't really have a clue, but, cats often just disappear for days.
Yes.
And no one knows where they've gone. And they always think, they're probably being fed at a neighbour's or something, but they're actually on a long voyage, are they?
Yes, they're out at sea. They're navigating the high seas, the 7 seas. Yeah, they're off. And so you should always be, listen closely, because a cat will tell you all the stories of the sea, all the mysteries, the adventures they've seen, the mermaids they've seen. They've seen some incredible things out there. And they're quite magical. I know we think cats are magical anyway, but they really are. And they can hoist a mainsail like nobody's business with their paws.
That's incredible. I mean, so here's a question as well. And maybe, forgive me if I ask you too many questions about cats and their career. I know you specialise with all sort of animals in their career, but having had the experience, or again when I was much younger, of having a pet cat and also some pet goldfish, and the cat would actively try and flip the goldfish out with its paw. How does that work with cat sailors on a boat? Are they there on the sides just
they get distracted,
getting in the way?
They do get distracted when they see a big shoal of fish. They are paws in the sea, trying to flip all those fish out, and I guess they don't quite realise it's not the same as a goldfish bowl, because if you flip a fish out of a goldfish bowl, it's going to come out of the bowl. You try and flip a fish out of the sea, you can't, because the sea's everywhere.
Right, sure. Yeah, that is a problem. That is a problem, and I guess it interrupts all the whale music as well.
That gets picked up on the speaker sometimes when they're recording. They have to pause recording because they're like, there's a paw in the water splashing about, let's pause. Let's start the recording again.
Yeah, it's got to be confusing saying pause. There's a paw.
Pause for a pause.
Pause for a pause. But then they don't know if they're Yeah, that's got to cause
That
problems.
is confusing.
Yeah.
Very confusing. Pause for a pause. Pause for applause from the pause.
Wow.
Very, very
Wow.
confusing.
I mean, it's a minefield. I don't know. You deal with such delicate subject matter, and I'm very grateful again that you really had time to come and do this in between all this animal management, career management.
It's actually a lovely
skills.
break, because it is a lot. It's a lot. I have a big spreadsheet.
I bet it is.
And with all the animals on there that I'm currently working with, and it gets a bit much sometimes.
And you've checked the room now. There's no sort of cheeky spiders or anything in there that are going to distract you while we talk.
No, there could. If a mouse appears, then that'll just be a mouse checking in with me about how they had their first day today.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
okay. That's fine.
Yeah, they're a driving instructor.
Right.
Yeah, so
Lovely.
if they appear, then they'll just be letting me know how that's gone. Hopefully, that's gone very well for them.
Oh, that's nice to know. That's really nice to know. No, it's actually, I've got to stop asking you questions, because in my head already I'm like, how does it slam its hand? Younger listeners won't know, but a big thing a driving instructor always does is, when I slam my hand on the dashboard, you have to stop the car. You have to do like an emergency stop. And mice have got really little feet.
They're tiny. They have to jump. They jump. They say, when I jump onto the dashboard, then
right. Do you know what? That instantly makes sense. Instantly, and they can do that really quickly.
They can.
Wow.
They're very, very swift. So their response time is unbelievably quicker than humans. So actually, for teaching people how to handle large machinery, it's the ideal.
Wow. Well, there you go. Well, listen, Alison, it's so lovely to have you here, as I said before. And, I've had this question that's been sent in that I think you are the person that can answer it. I know this question's pretty much been sent in just for you, and I'm glad that I have an expert such as yourself to answer it. But before we get there, I do have a couple of admin questions. How do you feel about admin? Obviously, you deal with animals, animals and their admin, but how are you with admin?
I'm actually pretty good with admin.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's why I think I'm so sort of appropriate for organising people's careers, because I will put it into a spreadsheet, and then I can go back to the spreadsheet. And if, say, driving instructor doesn't work out, I'll have a whole list that I can look at from previous mice I've worked with and make suggestions there.
That's great. That's great. That's great. Do you have a spreadsheet for spreadsheets?
Actually, I do.
Yeah.
Wow. I know. So I can organise and go to, I know I need a spreadsheet, and I need it for mice. So I need to go to the spreadsheet that tells me where those spreadsheets are saved. And then that spreadsheet has a spreadsheet for itself, telling me where the spreadsheet for spreadsheets is saved. And it just sort of goes on and on and on backwards.
That's very complicated, but very organised as well.
Very
do you have I need to ask you the admin question actually, but do you have a spreadsheet for spreads like margarine and butter? And do you have one for like bed spreads? Like as in sheets and duvets and right, okay. So
absolutely,
covered it. Yeah.
So before I butter my toast in the morning, I will go to the spreadsheet for spreads. Have a look on there. Before I change my bedding, I will go to the spreadsheet for beds. And then if I'm thinking about baking anything, go for the spreadsheet for breads.
Right, sure. Yeah.
There's plenty there.
I'm excited to ask you the admin question. I have to say, I was very excited to ask you the big question in a minute, but I think these admin questions, wow, I'm excited to see what happens. So the first one I have to do is, I'm sure you're aware, but this is an audio podcast, and so most of our listeners do listen to it with their ears, but some may listen to it with their elbows, their bums, whatever. We don't discriminate however they want to tune in. And I just wondered if you had a favourite noise that you could either make for us or at least tell us about.
I mean, I like lots of noises, which isn't very helpful here, but I was thinking about this. It's anything from a sort of like right up to a yippee. It's sort of it's depending on mood. Really.
Sure. Can I ask what the first noise was and what the second noise was? Like what are those noises?
Yeah, I think for the that's like I think it's almost like my tummy. It's my tummy.
Right.
And often I make a lot of decisions from my tummy. My tummy will lead me to what do I want today? And I'll be like, and then I'll go, yes, I'm hungry. I'm gonna have some toast. Better go to my spreadsheet for breads.
Right. Sure. Wow, that's very impressive. And what was the second noise?
The other one was quite happy, like a yippee, yippee. And that I think is sort of like my brain. That's my brain, feeling pretty good and happy and jumping out of bed and being like ready for the day.
That's amazing. It's amazing. You've got a very musical sort of whole body, really.
Yeah.
Do your elbows make a sound?
Yeah. Oh.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And I guess that's sort of when you're falling over roller skating.
That is, and they'll make that sound before I've fallen, and I'll be like, "Oof!" I'm going to fall. They know before I do. Incredible.
That's brilliant. I wish I was as musical as you, Edson.
You've got nothing there. Nothing in your body makes any noise.
Certain bits. I think my little toe occasionally goes. If I put on shoes that are too tight, it's like it gets a bit squished.
Yeah. Gosh, they put it on
otherwise, I don't. I'm trying to think. I think if they do make noise, it's quite quiet. They're obviously quite. I think I'm quite a noisy person, so maybe the rest of my body just went.
Fair enough. Let him take over.
I think that's it.
No, that's fair
selfish
enough
of me, actually.
No, that's okay. I think everyone's body is different, and if your body's noisy for whatever reason, great. I think I just allowed my tummy to make quite a lot of noises, and then the rest of the body sort of had a space to do so.
I would like to. My tummy occasionally makes noises, but I would like it to make enough noises that it could just order food for itself, like yours does. I think that would be very handy at restaurants if they came in and said, "What do you want to eat?" And then my tummy could just go like, "Well, I'll have the sandwich with chips."
Yeah,
that's what,
Yeah, and that is what my tummy can do, which is lovely. Sometimes I don't have to think, and then I've ordered something and it's arrived, and I'm like, "Oh, that's exactly what I wanted." And then I'm like, "Yeah," because my tummy knew.
That's great. So efficient, but again, I think it's down to your admin skills. You're very efficient in all these areas, and wow, fantastic noises. Thank you, Alison. We definitely haven't had those on the show before, and I'm going to strive to make my body noisier. I think that's what I'm going to attempt to do.
I'm thrilled to hear. Great.
Yeah, thank you. And the other admin question I have to ask you, of course, this is a very important one. This podcast is suitable for all ages, really. Any age you can imagine. I don't know if you can imagine an age, Alison.
I feel like when I think about age, it turns into this big colourful blob.
Right.
Because age is just, you're alive, aren't you? So, big colourful blob, way! It's just growing. It's just a big colourful blob that's growing. So you could be anything, couldn't it? What do you think?
I should say that if people listening are of the age of big colourful blob, it's absolutely suitable for them.
Good.
But I also just have to point out, I don't want to discriminate. Regular listeners will know it's suitable for any age except 100, but every other age, even 101 is fine. It's a long story. I won't go into it. No, but I should also point out that anyone who is undead and listening to this, if there are any zombies, vampires listening, they are also welcome. This is we're a very open podcast.
Good. I'm really pleased to hear that, because I think they have a hard time. I think they get a bad rep, and they're portrayed quite scarily on the TV and in film. And I think actually give them a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's very hard. I know a lot of zombies try to listen to this and then their ears fall off. But it's all about. Yeah, I've got to work out a way to get it to them more efficiently. But if you are listening, you're undead, you're welcome.
Great, excellent.
Yeah, so just because it's suitable for all of those ages except 100, obviously. I just wondered if you had any rude words that you won't be saying.
Well, the rudest word that I can think of that I will definitely not be using is trumpety.
Wow,
that is so rude. And I first heard it. In Nelly the Elephant, I think. Isn't it in Nelly the Elephant? Nelly goes trump, trump, trumpety, trump. And I always think I like the sound of Nelly. I always think she's very rude.
And it just goes to show, doesn't it? Sometimes things don't age, things from the past, because Nelly, I think, came out quite some years ago. And people now might say, oh, it's still suitable for children, but times have changed.
Times have, yes.
And we don't say trumpety anymore, because it's not right. It's not right to say it.
Very rude. I think also anyone who plays the trumpet, you've got to be careful there, because that's one letter away from trumpet.
Wow. Yeah, and how would they feel about being called trumpety rather than, say, a professional trumpet player?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I think that I would be very upset if someone said, "Oh, there goes trumpety." I thought, "Oh, how dare you!"
Wow.
How dare you? I am a professional brass player.
Yeah. And I mean, it's in the song trumpety trump. What double bad? It's
double bad, like double denim. Yes, double bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the sound of it. It's the force that it comes out of your mouth with, because you have to trumpet to get the trumpety out. Trumpety.
But can I mean, because the sound of a trumpet is wonderful, but the word trumpety, the word of trumpety is like trumpety. It's got lots of like p's and t's in, whereas a trumpet is, and that's like just big, just forceful noise.
Can you say the word trumpety making with that voice? Like that's better. That's
maybe, yeah.
So much nicer.
Yeah.
That's much better. I think that's how you should pronounce the word trumpety. It'd be it's a lot less rude.
Well, in which case, I'm very grateful you won't say trumpety on this show. But if you at any point want to say then you're more than welcome to.
That's wonderful. I feel like that'd be a really good way to finish conversations. And then you leave.
Well, it's been lovely seeing you, and then you just go. I mean,
yeah. You give yourself a little fanfare.
Yeah, entering would be quite good as well. I'm here. Like there's a. Yeah, we need more trumpets in our lives.
We do. Yeah, so you need trumpets, not trumpetees.
Yes, we've got to be very, very careful. And thank you for not saying trumpety on the show. I definitely wouldn't dare say trumpety.
Okay, I won't say trumpety. I will not say trumpety.
Thank you very much. Now listen, it's the big question really, and we've been sent this, and I just have to say that this has been sent in from Paris, who I believe is a person, Paris, and not the entire city.
Okay.
I don't think the entire city of Paris has sent us a question, but maybe they have.
Maybe they did.
Maybe all the people in the capital of France want to know this. It is possible because it's a very good question. But I do have to put an apology in here because we've got a kind of question pile at Radio Nonsense with lots of questions. Whenever people send in questions, they go into this pile. This question, I believe, fell down the back of the sofa and it should have been answered a very long time ago. So I'm very sorry to all the citizens of Paris or Paris the person. This is a bit late. I'm very sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
I need to do your spreadsheets. Then
that's exactly what I need.
Put all the questions into a spreadsheet in order of date when they arrived, and then I can be in charge of that. Yeah.
Yes, well that's it. Well, I normally just put the latest one on the top of the pile, so and then I work from the bottom to the top. But then that doesn't work. So then you pull the bottom one out first, they all fall over, and then you have to restack them. It's a very stupid system, actually.
Yeah, I used to do that with my spreadsheets. Yeah, right. I'd pile up my spreadsheets, and then you pull one out from the bottom, they all fall over.
Yeah.
Oh, so yes. Now I try not to do that now.
No, it's saying it out loud to you has made me realise that it's a really unworkable system, and I think you've made me realise that I need to see. So I might have to talk to you after the show about spreadsheets.
No, that's great.
Organising.
Well, you're welcome to.
Yeah, well, so again, I just like to apologise to Paris or all of Paris. It's a bit, it's very mean of me to have done that. But they have asked a very good question, I should say. And I hope you're ready for this, Alison. It's a big, very important question of our time, I think. Right. Are you ready?
I am ready. I'm nervous.
Right. I'm nervous looking at it. I'm nervous knowing it's coming because I've really not seen a question of this scale before, and it's wow. It's taken some deep thought to get here. So I hope we can get an answer for it. But Paris has asked, what if you could turn giant that wouldn't stop vomiting?
Oh.
Whew, wow.
Yeah. That is poetic, Paris.
Yeah.
Very poetic, almost existential in its sort of nature.
Yes.
Wow. What if you could turn giant that wouldn't stop vomiting?
Yes.
Now, are we imagining that as one question or potentially two? Is it what if you could turn giant? Full stop. So what if you could turn giant? I would love to turn giant. And then second part, that wouldn't stop vomiting. So then is that a question of like what wouldn't stop vomiting? Or is it what if you could turn giant and then straight into that wouldn't stop vomiting?
It feels to me quite direct in the way it's written, that as though I am not entirely sure if this is something Paris would like to do or needs a warning about, but it is almost like, maybe thought about the giant bit already, maybe thought about the vomiting bit, but what if you turned giant that wouldn't stop vomiting? How would that affect them and the world? And I suppose I should just start with, because it says, what if you could? But have you ever turned giant that couldn't stop vomiting before?
I would absolutely love to. I mean, the vomiting part maybe perhaps would take away from the fun. But I would, if I could turn giant, I would absolutely love that. Imagine, I'd love to do it in a space that was safe, because I think if I suddenly turned giant and I was in my house and took the roof off, that would be disappointing. Then all the animals in the garden, they'd be like, oh, look at the mess you've made. I'd love it if I was out in the garden or in a park somewhere where when you turn giant, you're not going to explode anything, or hurt anyone, or or disrupt any nests in trees. So just somewhere safe, and poof, you blow up. Enormous. That'd be great.
Yes. You mean blow up, like sort of inflate, like you don't mean sort of explode, blow up.
Oh no, that I would like to do that as well. I'd like to explode one day. Sure. As long as I can put myself back together at the end, I don't mind what order, but if I could put myself back together. But I'd love to blow up, as in, like a balloon. Blow up, enormous, a huge version of me, inflate myself.
Wow.
Woo, massive. But I guess if I am a balloon, I could then blow away. That's a risk.
Yeah.
And then if I start vomiting, I'm vomiting over everyone.
Well, I was going to say as well that if you were sort of inflatable, say you had a lie down in a park, and then next thing you know, lots of people are jumping on you because they think you're like a bouncy castle.
You're a bouncy castle, yes. That might be why you then start vomiting, because they're jumping all over your tummy.
Oh wow! Of course, that would make your tummy would make all sorts of strange noises if that started.
Yes. Oh, my tummy would be speaking to me, saying, "Get these children off! We're going to be sick."
Yeah.
At least I'd get a warning, so then I could warn everybody. I'm about to vomit.
Yeah, it would be awful. But I do like the idea that you just sort of inflate. I like the idea that you go, today I'm going to be giant, and then maybe you get one of those foot pumps and you sort of pump yourself up, and then when you need to get small again, you could just sort of open. There'll be a little latch on your heel or something, and you just deflate a bit.
Deflate, and then if you could you go tiny, or would you just go back to the size of you?
Maybe you could deflate so much that you end up just sort of like withered on the floor, and someone has to fold you up and put you in a bag and take you home.
Oh, and then you'd be lovely. It'd be easy to store, wouldn't you? You just fold yourself up, yourself in a cupboard, having a good night's sleep in the cupboard. Then when you're ready to be inflated, you get yourself out in the morning.
That sounds great.
That
sounds very convenient.
Yeah, I think it would be convenient. But the vomiting thing, tricky. That does make it a bit a bit miserable.
I mean, I don't know how you imagine. I sort of imagine very much like sort of like a Godzilla type film, a really huge giant person just going bleh,
yes,
just walking through a city, bleh, and everything just covered in vomit, and people say, how do we stop this thing, and all that sort of like a monster movie.
That is a horrible monster, isn't it? Like I can see that. I could see that, and
Bathzilla.
Yeah. And I think that I feel like they would be very apologetic as well. I don't know why. I feel like they wouldn't be happy about the fact they're vomiting everywhere. They would be very sorry that they were doing that. They just couldn't control their tummy, and they'd eaten something a little bit dodgy. They had a bug, and
yeah.
And then people would. So then you'd almost go. If you were one of the citizens, if this was in Paris, Bathzillas walking through Paris, vomiting everywhere, all the citizens of Paris, I guess, would be like, okay, well, you are apologising for it, so don't worry about that. Help us clean up. When your tummy feels better, come back and help us clean up.
Do you think? I know someone who's got a phobia of vomiting and gets very scared of vomiting, but I also know many other people, in fact, who've talked about when they see someone vomit, it makes them want to vomit. So do you think a giant vomiting everywhere would cause everyone else, because everyone would see the vomit, so you'd have everyone in the city bleh, 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 and we'd end up in a sort of sea of vomit. It'd be probably the most disgusting thing anyone could ever have imagined.
I can smell it from here. I can smell that. You're right. It would be, everyone would start vomiting. It would be so disgusting. And then everyone would be vomiting and apologising to themselves or to each other. And I don't know why I think that everyone apologises. Because when I'm sick, I'm always like, oh, I'm so sorry I've been sick. I just think it's a polite thing to say. Like to your housemate or to your mum or dad or something. You're like, oh, I've been sick everywhere. And then, you always feel a little bit like, oh, dear, like, poor me. So everyone would be feeling a bit like, oh, poor me, poor Bathzilla. Oh, it'd be a sorry tale, wouldn't it? A sorry
It would,
tale.
it would be awful. I mean, I think there's no other way to say it. It would be a terrible, awful situation. And I can't help but wonder. What I want to know is if Paris is asking this because it's something they aspire to, or if it's something they need to check, to avoid.
I hope it's the latter. I think that Paris is just checking. I definitely shouldn't turn giant and start vomiting everywhere. Just want to check.
Yes. Yeah, I hope so. Otherwise, we're in a lot of trouble if Paris has got this up their sleeve. Maybe it's something they've got planned for next. I should have had this answered ages ago. It could already be in motion.
My goodness, this has been at the bottom of the pile for so long. Oh no, Paris is probably they're out there. They are out there, and they've already done it.
Worried.
Rivers of vomit. Oh, Paris, I hope this reaches you in time, Paris. I really do.
Can you suggest another career path for Paris, perhaps?
Oh, yes. Well, if Paris, I could suggest for humans, I could suggest for animals. Obviously, I'm not as good when it's just for humans, because I'll suggest something like, maybe you should just make a career out of selling the fluff that you find on carpet.
Oh, wow.
Which I know now. I'm like, I don't know if that is a career. But I'm not so good with humans, you see.
But you see, I'd say that's still better than if your other option is to become a giant that wouldn't stop vomiting.
You're right. That would be
fluff
better.
from carpets it feels like a much nicer career and I think more people would enjoy, you doing that.
That's a good point, actually. Yes, I wonder if Paris, let us know if you're able to sort of reroute, change career, and go and start selling the fluff that you find on your carpet or on any carpet. And then see if you avoid the old giant vomiting scenario.
Yeah, and I'm also going to recommend, we were talking about the Sahara Desert and it being a good holiday location, but if Paris does turn giant and wouldn't stop vomiting, maybe head there, because when I was sick at school, they used to come and put sand over it or sawdust. They'd always have and so maybe if you go somewhere that's all sand, it will kind of clean it up.
Such a good idea. Yes. And clean that up. And also maybe then, because you're giant and you can see the whole world, you can guide all the roller skaters back who are lost in the desert.
There's a lovely solution.
I think that maybe we're actually encouraging Paris to do this.
I say I hope so. I don't know. It is difficult. It's what I meant. It's a very big question, and I'm sad I left it so long. Really, and I hope we've reached Paris in time. Yeah. Whatever conclusion that they come to.
I hope so. Gosh, deflate yourself if you are giant right now. Deflate yourself. Yeah. Fold yourself up. Put yourself in a cupboard.
Amazing, brilliant advice. With it. Thank you, Alison. Listen, I knew you were the person that could handle a question of that scale in literally and sort of. In terms of the question, are you busy for the rest of your day, life, 1,000 years? What have you got?
Oh yes, well, I got my wellies on because obviously I'm always wearing my wellies, always ready to go.
Excellent.
So I'm actually going to go for a lovely little walk. I'm going to pop out. I'm going to take myself out of my garden because actually I don't really leave my garden very often. Got so many clients, just so many creatures that I've got booked in on the spreadsheet, and I'm going to have a lovely day out by myself. I'm go for a walk with my wellies. I'm going to have a paddle in some puddles and ponds, and have a lovely time.
Well, that's great. I mean, I hope no animals tried to get sort of free advice from you on that journey. And also, should the worst have happened and Paris already turned to a giant that wouldn't stop vomiting, you've got your wellies on, so you'll be okay.
I will be. Yes, I will. And what about yourself? What are you up to? You're going to get.
I think I'm going to try and teach my stomach to talk. I think that's what I might do now, or perhaps learn how to talk entirely in trumpet. I haven't worked it out yet. But
I love that.
One of those two, yeah.
Maybe you could connect the two. I think that the stomach voice could
my stomach can talk in trumpet. I think that's what bums do. I worry that stomachs would then be taking, then the bums would be like, well, you've taken my job.
Yeah, and that you're right, and that would be unfair on the bum because the bum has done that for years.
Yeah.
I feel like
these things are true. This you deal with careers advice. It's
right. It's delicate. I would really feel difficult giving career advice to a bum.
Yes,
I think it would be unfair. I think they have a very solid career, and it'd be unfair to ask them to change. So, and it'd be very difficult to talk to the mouth and suggest that they do what the bum did, I think the mouth would be very shocked at that.
Very shocked. Very shocked. And I don't think it would be wise at all. No.
Not at all.
Well, yeah, well, thank you again, Alison. Listen, thank you. It's been so lovely having you on the show, and good luck with the wellies and the lovely quiet stroll. And
thank you.
And most importantly for answering Paris's question. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. I've loved it.
These autumn leaves are out of here.
Thanks so much to Alison Thea Skot for stepping away from her helpful animal career advice service to answer Paris's question. And Paris, I am so sorry it has taken so long to get to your question. And I do really hope that you liked your answer. If not, please do put any complaints you have into a giant bowl of gone off yogurt, and then when a giant eats it, it will vomit it out and I won't have to see it. If you have questions you need answering, or you want to send in anything else at all, you can get your goofy pumpernickels, grown-ups, to help you email me at podcast@comedyclubforkids.co.uk. If they want to help me make this podcast, they can sign you up to the advert-free Linda edition of the show, which you will get one day before everyone else, and that costs just $2.99 a month, whatever country you're in. They can do that on Apple Podcasts or by the link to Acast Plus or Patreon in the pod blurb. Do check out comedyclubforkids.co.uk as well, and the other podcast I host with the excellently funny Athena Kugblenu called Bust or Trust. Well, that mooncake was delicious, and I'm really thinking I should go to the moon and collect some of it in a pot if it tastes like that. In fact, I might go tomorrow. There is no better time to go to the moon than in the autumn, when lots of other things get sent up in the sky. It's not just lanterns, is it? There's fireworks too. And so you never know. It might make the birds think a giant jellyfish is coming towards them if I'm in a rocket, and then they'll really start pooing on... Oh. Hello? Oh, it's me, Gregory Bird, King of the Birds. Oh, how funny to hear from you right now. Is it? Funny, is it? Well. A lot of birds listen to radio nonsense and aren't impressed at all with this week's show. How have you heard it before I've even finished recording? Shut up, you! Listen, now you've been so rude to us and revealed all those terrifying flying jellyfish are actually pretty lanterns we should enjoy and appreciate, we're going to poo on everything you like. Everything. Oh, everything? Really? Everything! What if I say sorry? Oh. Well, that's not good. I mean, it won't be that bad, will it? I mean, how much poo can birds even do on command? Oh, no. Bye! You have been listening to Comedy Club for Kids Presents. Radio nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense. It's the end.